Hi, everyone. Welcome to our interview that we have with Scott Schwarz today. I don't know what time you'll be seeing this, but I'm super excited for you to meet my friend. And I will not even try to explain the magic that he does, but I will let that be up to him. First, I want to introduce you to me. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Jill Armijo, and I am responsible for the amazing things that go on in this group, Caregivers Living Abundantly. I'm responsible for some of it, but you guys are what really makes it fabulous. And I just want to thank all of you for being here and for contributing and for learning and for being the best caregivers you can be and for taking good care of yourself. And the reason I'm bringing Scott Schwarz to you is because so many of you need to have some help with your finances. And I get it. I've moved so many times because of my husband's health problems. And I've had to get a first and second and a third job at times. And so I know that it can be a puzzle and it can be discouraging and frustrating and scary and all the things, but I also know that there can be wonderful things for you in your future and that Scott has a mind for how to help you. So I will turn the time over to Scott and have him introduce himself and tell all of us about his background, his story, and then a little bit about his professional background. So take it away, Scott.
Okay, thank you very much, Jill. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to talk to your people. Hello to everyone out in Caregivers Living Abundantly. I'm grateful to be here. My name is Scott Schwarz. I'm based in Kansas City, Kansas. And what I do now, entrepreneurs whose only investment is in their own business hire me because they're sick and tired of trading their time for money, having only one income stream and insufficient tax savings. So I've reverse engineered the way banks, the wealthy, and Fortune 500 companies use their money so my clients can take control of their money, put it to work for them, and become their own virtual banker. Bottom line, I help them recover much of their taxes, create multiple income streams, and put a solid financial foundation under their business that grows safe, liquid, and tax-free compound interest guaranteed. Now, my introduction to this, you asked about my background, Jill. Um, like a lot of guys fresh out of college, I was ready to take basically the first job that was offered to me. The first company smart enough to want to hire me was an insurance company. Not what I was looking for, not what I had envisioned, but that's what happened. And I've been in the insurance and financial services industry for 30 plus years now. And that came as a corporate worker. I was a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday guy. So I learned the business from the inside. How do the products work? Who are the products geared for? And learned all of those details. And so I wasn't on the sales side at all. I wasn't being taught sales techniques, what pays the best commission. I was being taught, here's what we do, here's how we offer and provide a valuable service to our clients.
Interesting.
Yeah. So from there, things took a lot of twists and turns. That the first really good job that I had in the industry was for Transamerica, a very well-known company. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working there. I did not have any problem with being a company guy rather than being out on my own. Then I got laid off in 2007, right as the economy was getting bad. And so what I had thought originally, oh, no problem, I've got a good work record, I'll get hired on somewhere else in no time. And it didn't happen. Um, what was underlying all of that is that I was feeling locked in a very bad marriage.
Mm.
And as long as there was food on the table and a roof overhead, I was getting along okay. But after being unemployed for a while, and the food on the table and the roof overhead was becoming a challenge, and I'm getting foreclosure warnings in the mail and uh, things like that, that really triggered additional problems in the marriage, and it started a vicious cycle.
Mm.
And unfortunately, Jill, my coping with that situation resulted in self-medicating to the point where I became an alcoholic.
Mm.
Um, I, during that time of unemployment, um, I eventually went with my then wife to the animal hospital where she worked to have some income. I was helping out in the kennel, which meant I was walking dogs and cleaning up poopy dog cages. So if you can imagine, I was in management, I had an important job, I was setting up a very entrepreneurial area that opened up a new line of business for the company. And less than a year later, I'm cleaning up dog poop, literally. Very
Rough.
huge blow to
Mhm.
my male ego and
I
to
bet.
bank account.
Hmm.
And so that made the cycle even worse. It made the self-medicating worse. It made the marriage problems worse, and it spiraled. A friend of mine heard about what I was doing there at the animal hospital, and he took pity on me. He took me on in his floor care business. So I was sweeping floors and waxing floors by night and cleaning up dog poop by day. Felt just horrible, like the biggest loser in the world. Um, and during that time period, ended up declaring bankruptcy, short selling the house. Things were really bad financially. And again, the cycle gets worse, the marriage gets worse, the self-medicating gets worse. Um, in time, I got back into the insurance industry with another company, a good job again, which was great. That marriage was over, and I was on my own, me and my daughter together. Um, but the compulsiveness, the compulsive nature of the self-medicating had taken root. And what um, it got to the point where on one Friday afternoon, as I returned to the office from lunch, I snuck in a bottle of vodka with me, drank it at my desk, was discovered and terminated.
Mm.
Cannot tell you the empty feeling that
Oh,
following Monday morning when I had no job to go to.
and
And
a daughter to support.
and a daughter to support, spousal support to pay. Um, by
Heartbreaking.
that time, my daughter was back living with her mom, but I still had the child support to pay.
Right.
So yeah, it was very overwhelming to the point where on November 3rd, 2015, 6 years ago today, how ironic that we're filming this today,
Mm.
I wrote out my suicide letter. That
Oh,
was going to be it.
goodness gracious.
I had it all planned out. 7:30 that night, I was going to go down to the car in the garage with the door closed, turn the car on. I had 3 boxes of sleeping pills, and
Oh,
that was going to be it. Throughout that day, had several conversations with my daughter. She kept calling me
mm.
saying, "Will you pick me up from school tomorrow? I need math help with my math homework."
Mm.
never this concerned about our math homework under normal circumstances. So I'm thinking, is God stepping in here to try to tell me something?
Mm.
At 7:30, I am standing at the door with my keys in my hand, the sleeping pills and my life insurance policy in the other, and my phone rings. It's a friend of mine that I was supposed to be getting together with that evening. He says, "Hey, Scott, I see you're not here. You weren't here the other day when we were going to get together. I just called to make sure you're doing okay." I'm like, okay, now I know. Now I know that God's stepping in and saying, don't do this. So went to sit and think. And then that day, Jill, that day that was going to be my suicide date instead became my sobriety date. This is my
Mm.
sixth soberversary. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
Talk about turning on a dime.
yeah, yeah. Um, and but the financial issues were still there. Plus,
Mm.
now I don't have a job.
Mhm.
Um, I got back on working for a local insurance agent, thanks to my background, the things I had learned. And through that, I got my license to get into sales, and I branched off on my own almost a year later.
Mm.
Had ups and downs, like any salesperson new to the world of commission-only sales.
Yeah, it's rough.
And a year ago this past summer, I get a call out of the blue from a business associate, former business associate, I should say, introducing me to this plan, this new thing that was pitched to me as the best way to help people get out of debt.
Mm.
A way to spend your dollars twice, once to invest, once to pay off debt, same dollars at the same time.
Mm.
So I'm thinking, okay, that sounds great. It sounds like something that's needed. It also sounds too good to be true.
Uh-huh. Maybe illegal.
I, well, my skeptical nature, I didn't believe it, but I was intrigued enough to look into it and see what it was all about. And it was from that I went on my own, not just listening to what this company was pitching, but looking at, okay, who uses this? And by that, I don't mean who
Mm.
sells it. I mean
Mhm.
who buys this, who does this. If it's broke people, I want no part of it. If it's people that know what they're doing, I'll look further.
Yeah.
So I started this process of trying to reverse engineer the experts. Who's the experts? Banks, the wealthy, Fortune 500 companies. They know how to make money.
Mhm.
Why not, instead of reinventing, why not, instead of trial and error, why not, instead of listening to your broke friends,
Mhm.
why not copy the experts who have established that they know what works? And what do you know, as I study that, they use the same approach that I had just learned about. And
Mhm.
since then, Jill, I've learned additional approaches that I've combined to help people out and
Okay, so you
come
kind
up.
of branched out on your own and figured it
Yeah,
out
yeah,
from what you were being pitched.
exactly,
Interesting. Wow.
exactly.
Sounds like a
And
lot of work.
well, it was a lot of research, but
Mm-hmm.
my my uh, my major, my degree is in statistics of all things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a numbers geek. So
Mm-hmm.
looking at those numbers and how they turned out and reverse engineering that was really fun for a sicko like me, a numbers guy.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what do you call your business then?
My business is called Never Too Much Money. You can find
Ooh.
me at nevertoomuchmoney.com.
Mm-hmm.
And and like I say, it's different pieces that I've put together. A lot of it comes from my background in the insurance and financial world, and some doesn't. In fact, what I'm really going to be telling your people about here today, with what time we have left, actually comes from the accounting and legal world. You
But you're going to dumb it down for us, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
I need it dumbed way down.
It it is simple. Um, when I first introduced myself, Jill, remember I was talking about how I mainly help entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
and your group, I'd imagine some are entrepreneurs. They can relate very easily. Some are sitting there thinking, that's not me. Why do
Yeah.
I? But the thing
Yes.
is, with caregivers, talking specifically about you and your audience here, there are a number of foundations and government opportunities for them to be paid as caregivers for what they do.
Right.
So maybe they're punching a clock from 9 to 5. Maybe because of being a caregiver, they've had to cut back and they're only, maybe working 20 hours a week and having a hard time making ends meet. Whatever the case
Right.
may be, if they're being paid as a caretaker, then even though they may not think of themselves in that way, then yes, really they are self-employed.
Mm.
And we can use advantages that the IRS provides to take advantage of that, to
Mm.
capitalize on that. And so maybe, John Doe in your group, just by becoming John Doe Caregiving Service, now that opens up opportunities for them through business structuring to really create more income for themselves.
That's fascinating. Now, I hope those of you that are watching are jotting down some questions for Scott because he will be available to answer questions in the group.
Mhm.
This is pre-recorded, so it won't be live and you won't be able to ask him questions right now, but please jot down your questions so that you can put them in the group so we can get some dialogue going here because I know many of us really need help with our finances. So, okay, go ahead. Thanks, Scott. Keep going.
Yeah. Now, when people think of structure, there's a difference between filing a business and structuring a business. Those within your group, maybe who are entrepreneurs already, they may be thinking, oh, well, I'm incorporated, I'm an S corp, I'm a C corp, or I'm an LLC, I'm a whatever the case may be, fill in the blank. So I've already done that.
Mhm.
But really, that's very often not the case because there is a more effective way to do that that involves the interrelation between multiple business entities. And what I'm talking about, the outcome of what I'm talking about is structuring these multiple entities so that you can make things that you're paying for already as personal expenses, make them business tax deductible expenditures.
Mm.
I'll give you an example. Your housing payment, whether you own your home or rent, either way, your utilities, your auto maintenance, including the gas in your tank, the oil, the tires,
Mm.
even, Jill, the clothes on your back and in your
Mm.
closet, being able to legally and ethically make those tax deductible business expenses.
Mm.
Now that can encompass so many things. There's so many tax strategies where, okay, so let's take the example of a caregiver who's they work for someone else, they're punching the clock, but they're also getting paid by a local foundation or by federal, state, or local government entity to be a caregiver. So they set themselves up as as a business that has these different legal entities and enjoys this interrelation between them, usually three, in some cases less, in some cases more.
So would this work with somebody who's getting some funding from the VA?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And let's use that example. So, okay, they get, even if it's not a lot, but they set themselves up as a business to receive payment.
Mm-hmm.
So they're paying not John Doe, but John Doe Caregiver Services.
Mm.
And so now the auto maintenance, the housing, the utilities is a tax write-off.
Wow.
To give you an idea of the extent of this, and this is, I'm going to give you just one example, one of 150, but one example, and this is simple math. Don't have to be a stats major by any means to figure this out. Let's take if you're a homeowner, the depreciation on your home. If with that, with your business being owned by a corporation and the way it's interrelated, these multiple legal entities, you're able to write off depreciation every year. You
But
can
wait,
take,
don't homes appreciate
say that
usually?
again,
Don't homes appreciate, not depreciate?
the real
De-
estate, the value of the real estate appreciates, but your home and your possessions in it depreciate.
Oh, okay. Okay. I
Okay.
gotcha.
So you get to divide the value of your home by 27.5 and receive that. Write that off on your taxes.
Oh,
So
wow.
simple math. Let's say your home is worth $275,000 divided by 27.5. That makes $10,000 every year for your home that you will get back from the government, okay,
Dang.
by the way that you structure the legal entities of your business.
Uh-huh.
So again, one example of many as to how being able to set your business up in this way is able to put money in your pocket. And now I know caregivers, again, many of them have had to cut back on their hours, cut back on the time in their businesses because of the responsibilities they have at home. So why not take advantage of these IRS provided tools to be able to create that additional income for yourself?
Wow, crazy. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Um, and there's a lot, Jill, that that people are able to take advantage of in that same way, but maybe they're thinking it sounds complicated.
Yeah.
I'm not an accountant. I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not a CPA, estate planner. Granted, um, that's this whole thing is not something that I thought up. It's like I said earlier, I've taken pieces of established processes that already existed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I rely on experts that really know this process, that know it much better than I do, the ins and outs of it. I'm not a tax attorney or an accountant either. And to be able to team up with them is something that I can give access to at a tiny, tiny fraction of the cost of, say, someone was to go down the street to a local attorney, a local tax attorney, a local
Mm-hmm.
CPA, a local
Mm-hmm.
estate planner, and say, hey guys, I heard this guy on Facebook talk about setting up this structure. How do I do it? The thing is, those people may not work together. They may not
Right.
be, so to speak, speaking the same language.
You might have to
And
hire all
how,
three of them to get your
uh,
ball rolling and get
yeah,
all the
yeah.
moving parts.
So wouldn't it be better then, Jill, to have a team of those experts that work together at a fraction of the cost? Think of it as like buying in bulk.
Yeah, that would
You know,
be
the 10
amazing.
pound can of coffee is less,
Mm-hmm.
per pound than the 2 pound, right?
Yeah.
So getting that together in one group saves so much and it pays for itself,
Mm.
let alone
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the
that's the
other
important
things.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. Let alone the other things that I can provide for people that I'm not even going to start talking about because that'll be a conversation for another time, maybe.
Yeah, we'd love to have another conversation. This is fascinating and uh, so involved that I'm really grateful that you're willing to be in the group with us to answer some questions. And in case people don't want to wait or they have some private questions for you, or they'd really just like to have a conversation on the phone to see how their situation uh, is relatable or what you can tell them about their personal, arrangements. How can they get a hold of you?
Um, they can go to nevertoomuchmoney.com. My contact information is there, including my social media links, my email address, phone number. I'm
Okay.
very glad to talk to anyone in your group. And I do have an opportunity where they can learn more about this, if I may mention that. Is that
Okay.
okay?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Please.
So I mentioned having experts that I work with that know this process better than I do.
Hmm.
Um, so what I'm going to do together with Patricia, my partner, is
Hmm.
set up a few Zoom video conferences for your group. We'll put on in your Facebook group what times they're going to be available so that people can dial in live. They'll have a few choices so
Mm,
that they'll be able to work around their schedule and be able to ask questions.
that's amazing.
There,
Wow.
Jill,
Thank you.
what we'll do is we'll drill down a little deeper. So what I wanted to do is just give an idea of the capability, the potential, the outcome that's available for your tribe.
Hmm.
So if someone wants to know, okay, how do I do that? What's the next step? Who can answer my questions? We'll drill down deeper. Um, and so that will be available in the coming week. And when this interview is posted in your group Friday,
Hmm.
we'll have those available times listed.
Okay, great.
We'll have my website listed. And what I wanted to do, Jill, as a gift for your tribe, for the Caregivers Living Abundantly group, I have a challenge coming up in December where
Oh
I'm
boy.
going to talk more about what I do, some of the other facets of what I do.
Mm,
Everyone
nice.
in your group is invited. It is a free challenge with an optional VIP ticket that is $97.
Mm,
Well worth it, but for your group, I will give a coupon code where they can upgrade to that VIP ticket, no charge.
oh my goodness. See, you guys, I have the very best friends. Thank you, Scott. That's so awesome.
I really want to help your group. I know that you provide a tremendous service for them, for a group that needs it. So I'm very glad to do it. My mother, I know, Jill, I was mentioning to you earlier, my mother died in August. She was 96 years old. She was at the point where she needed care. Fortunately, her husband, my stepfather, um, was significantly younger than her, and
Mm-hmm.
he took the lead in giving very good health care for her.
Oh, what a guy.
But the last few months, it got bad to the point where
Mm-hmm.
she needed round the clock. She went into hospice, and and this was just this last August, so it was during COVID.
Mm,
And she was in a nursing home and then got moved to hospice, could not go to visit her.
heartbreaking. Oh,
Even,
I hated that.
yeah, with all that was going on, she had been a stroke victim 8 years previous
Mm,
and did really well up until I'd say April. So about the last 4 months is when things were rough.
mm-hmm.
And what ultimately happened was she had a series of mini strokes
Yeah,
that took her life. And
bless your
she
heart.
lost her ability to speak for that last
Mm-hmm.
month or so.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't call her, couldn't visit her. Incredibly heartbreaking
Oh, yeah,
to know that you have a loved one that's going through that.
alone.
And yeah, exactly. And literally, you can't be there for her own safety. Um, it's, yeah, heartbreaking is the only word that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
So it's, I feel for caregivers in general. I saw all the work that her husband put forth on her behalf and
Mm-hmm.
what it took to do so. Um, and I've seen it in others, in friends. Fortunately, I haven't been in that situation, a situation that grave. Um, but what caregivers do with no fanfare, with so often no repayment, if any, and even in the event of, say, Alzheimer's and things like that, not even any thanks from the one who's
Right.
receiving the care.
Yeah.
It's just, it's incredible. And if I can help in any way, I'm glad to do it. If I can use the professional experience that I've built over these years to help in an area of need, my goodness, I'm very glad to do so.
Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you for your offer of support and information and clarity on how we can, help ourselves in our financial woes and have some hope for our
Yeah,
future and have kind of a light in the tunnel. Maybe not just at the end of the tunnel, but at, now, like
yeah,
this isn't just a way we can invest for 30 years from now. This is something that can benefit us, very soon.
it is.
So,
Yes,
so I'm,
yes,
I'm
it is.
really excited to learn more.
Yeah,
And yeah, we'll be really excited to have, we might even, we'll talk about it a little bit more, you and I, and kind of figure out what to do, but we might even create a little separate Facebook group just for the people who register for your challenge in December so that we can kind of communicate as a small unit and learn from each other and learn from you during that challenge.
That would be great. That would be great.
So,
Yeah,
yay.
yeah, let's talk about that. We can work that out.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Scott. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we call it a day?
Yeah, I can think of one thing, Jill. As far as being in a position to be able to help, I think there's really two things that have enabled me to do that. One, I talked about my experience in the insurance and financial world, learning it from the inside. Gaining that skill, gaining that knowledge is great. That's one thing. But a lot of people have that.
Mm,
The second
true.
thing is, in my mind, coming from where I come from, having been bankrupt, having short sold my house, having been on food stamps, it's a long story that I made
In
very
the
short.
depths of despair, like you can
Exactly.
totally relate to probably just about anybody who's been in any financial crap in their life.
Yes, yes, I believe so. And
That's huge. Yeah.
come out of that. I
And you
know,
haven't forgotten. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And with as I mentioned, my skeptical nature, really digging into this, investigating it like a reporter might, for example, to
Mm-hmm.
find the facts, to find who does this, what do they do, reverse engineer it. That came out of that desperation, out
Mm,
of those feelings.
right.
And I think it's kind of my vulnerability, but it's kind of my superpower too.
Yeah. It's what
And
makes you unique and
yeah,
able to convey to others how they can uh, change their situation.
yeah, yeah. I definitely agree. And I'm grateful to have that opportunity to help your people out. I'm very grateful for the time you've given me here today and for everyone who's listening in.
Thank you, Scott, for being here. I appreciate our conversation. I appreciate your friendship, and we'll look forward to meeting with you again soon.
Okay, Jill, and I'll get, and the details will be there as the interview is posted. Thank you,
Thank
Jill.
you so much. We'll look forward to it.
Okay,
Have a good one.
you too. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.